Hey everyone, this is Mickie DeVries. I'm a mentor at Click and Moms, and I'm also the instructor of Unlocking the Magic of Photoshop over at Click Photo School. I am a hobbyist photographer, and I mainly shoot just my own family. I wanted to bring this image into Photoshop today to show you a really cool option in Photoshop. It's under the select menu and it's color range. We're going to use this a little bit in this edit just to speed up the masking process. It has a lot of uses beyond what I'm going to show you, but hopefully this kind of shows you a little bit of what it can do, and that kind of leads you to other things you can do with it because it's pretty cool. So I've pre-edited this just to speed up things so this video isn't super long, and I just want to walk you through. So I corrected my skin using two different curves layer. One I corrected for the skin tones, one for the shadows. So this affects the whole image unless I mask, and I don't like what it does to the greens. They get a little too yellow green for me, but I like what it does for skin. So this is where that select color range comes in. If I'm on the layer mask and go up to select color range, I can go to this drop down and hit skin tones, and it works pretty good. The fuzziness slider is going to be super helpful in here because that's going to determine how much it affects. It kind of feathers the selection. You'll notice with a really low fuzziness, his skin looks patchy and not so great. So we need to pull it up. It kind of feathers out that effect. It also affects more of the background. So we kind of have to find a happy medium where we feel like it's affecting his skin good, but not too much in the background. It's definitely affecting his shirt kind of because we have those peachy tones, but I'm fine with that. So I'm going to hit OK. If I didn't want it to affect the shirt, like I can turn on and off, what I could do is just go to a black brush. I'm going to hit this icon of the red and black here and then switch them to get the black brush. And I could take some of that off. I'll just use a 50% brush. I'm using my right bracket key to make my brush bigger, and I can use the left bracket key to make it smaller. And I'm doing this super quick. But that's good enough. Now I'm just going to simply copy this mask to my shadow layer. So if I hold down Alt or Option and drag it up, there we go. So here is the skin, mainly affecting just the skin, a little bit of shirt, but I'm okay with that. I'm going to build the rest of the edit. There's one other place we're going to use this, and we're going to use it a little bit different. But let me quickly go through my other layers just so you can see the full edit. Here's my subject contrast. I simply made a curves layer, switched to soft light, reduced the opacity, and then I did play around with a curve. I'll show you what it looked like before. His shadows get a little dark for me, so I pulled them up on the curve. And then his highlights get a little bright when I do that, so I pulled those back down. And then I usually add my contrast to my subject separately so I can control the amount of contrast. I usually want them to pop more than the background. Here is my background layer, and I just have a simple S curve in the curves layer, and I reduce the opacity again. Again, I stole this layer mask. Let me show you. Hold down Alt or Option, drag it up. Now it's affecting just my subject, so I want to invert it. Control or Command I will invert that, so there's no need to remask. Next, I wanted to tone my greens. They were still a little too yellow for me. So I grabbed a hue saturation layer. I did play around with the master channel a little bit and then also with the greens. If I had limited it just to greens, it probably would have already not affected his skin tone too much. But I played around with the master channel too. So again, this is a great spot we can use the select color range. I'm going to add a layer mask. Normally it would already have one, but I had deleted it to delete the one I had made. But I just added it with this rectangle with a circle in, go up to select color range. This time we're going to, from the drop down, hit sample colors. There is greens and you can play around with that. There's a lot of cool things in here. Sampled colors is the one I probably use the most, so I want to show you that. I have it on the eyedropper. I'm going to click on something I want it to affect. If it doesn't affect enough, I can play around with the fuzziness, but I can also use the plus to get some of these because this tone of the green tree is very different in the tone here. So we can play around with that, and then we can look at the fuzziness of how much we want to affect in our image. Hit OK. Now if we turn it on and off, you'll notice it mainly just is affecting the background. And if it affect any areas we didn't want it to still, we could then use a black brush to take it off those areas. Next, I darkened the shirt just a little bit with curves. I just pulled it down. I just did a quick, because it was super quick to mask that, I just masked that myself by inverting the layer mask from white to black. So Control Command I, and then using a white brush to paint it just in the shirt area. I then also desaturated his shirt. I stole the layer mask again by holding Alt or Option to drag it up. And my last step is I added a layer that I call Polish, but it's just a brightness contrast adjustment layer. So this one right here, I add a tiny bit of brightness, a little bit of contrast. I tend to do that at the end of my edits. It just gives the image a nice kind of brightness. If it looks a little flat still, it kind of gives it some life. So that's what I do. Let me make a snapshot. Here is where I started, and this is where I ended. So hopefully that color range tool will help you speed up your masking. It's a super fun tool to use in a variety of ways.